Bonjour everyone, in today's video I'll be showing you how I lower my bust point which was too high on my bodice and I had to lower it before I continue with my torso block. So I had decided that I would remove 3/4 of an inch from my bust point down. So I have my front bodice and I take my tape measure and I am going to measure from the bust point down 3/4 of an inch. That's how much I'm going to lower my bust point by. Now that that's done, that's marked, I take my right angle ruler to draw a straight line across. That will be my new bust line, and it is at my new bust point. All right, so now I have my new bust line, and because my side seam is not a straight line, it is more of a diagonal line. So as it goes toward the waist, it opened up. So now my new bust line, which is lower and connected to the side seam, is wider than what my bust line is supposed to be. So I measured the original bust measurement that I had on there, and I placed that measurement on my new bust line to make sure that I have the correct measurement for what my bust line is supposed to be. So this is as if I was doing the pattern. If I was making the pattern, my bust line measurement, the measurement that would be on my bust line, that's where it would reach if I had done it correctly. But now I'm just showing you a different way I could have gone about this, which would be by just putting my ruler at a 90-degree angle from the original bust line down to the new one, and I would have gotten the same result for where to mark on the new bust line. And because of the changes that were made, now I have to redraw my side seam, and my side seam is drawn from the upper bust touching the bust line all the way down. And with my side seam being more narrow now, the angle being more narrow, that means that I am taking some of my waist out of the pattern, and I have to put that back into the pattern. So stay tuned to see how I do that. But before I do that, I am going to measure my side seam to make sure that I keep my original side seam measurement. Now that my side seam length is marked, I am going to measure that space I marked off, and I am going to add it back to my waist. And the way I do that is by dividing that space in half and putting half on each side of my dot leg. So therefore, I'm making my dot smaller so that I can have my waist be the measurement that it is supposed to be. So that measurement I marked off my waist on the side, that's how I'm putting it back into my waist. So now that that's complete, I am now marking or drawing my new dot. And my new dot now is more narrow. It only makes sense in my head that if I make adjustment to my bust point, then it would also lead to adjustment in my dot. And that's exactly what happened. And I like the way everything is looking. So now that space I took out from the side seam is now back into my pattern, and that just leads to my dot being more narrow, and I am satisfied with that. Now that that's done, next I am going to close my dot so I can shape my waist by connecting my center front to my side seam length. Before I do that, I'm going to measure my center front, and my original center front that I measure with my tape measure is 13 inches. And the reason why you see my length being more than 13 inches is because of the way I shape my waist. That leads to some excess being added because I use the right angle ruler to do so. In this clip, I did end up marking the wrong measurement. I intended to mark my actual center front measurement to show you the difference between my center front and the excess that happens when I use my right angle ruler. But I will do everything I can to make sure I explain it as I'm doing it. So here I close my dot, and I did mention on my original pattern making video to make sure the line is straight from center front to side seam length. And that is the case for me, but I forgot to mention the ruler would have to be at a 90-degree angle from the center front. That I forgot to mention, and I forgot to demonstrate that correctly as well. But this is the way I do my waist. I still like my waist to be straight from center front to side seam length, but I do make sure that the ruler is at a 90-degree angle though to do that. So what I do is I place the ruler at a 90-degree angle on the center front, and wherever it reaches down to the side seam, that's where I draw my line. And that leads to it having excess at the front instead of it being straight at the center front mark that I measure on my body. I'd normally have to bring it down because I want my center front to connect to my side seam with a straight line. That's why I do bring my ruler down past my center front point. So that's why I end up having the excess. You don't have to do it that way. You can simply do your line at a 90-degree angle just from the first part of the waist meaning from the center front to the first dot leg, and then just shape your waist how you want with the rest of your pattern. But I do like the straight line, so that's why I do things the way I do. And now to finish shaping my dots, I am using my tracing wheel to go over that straight line. So where my dot is folded, I know where to mark and cut to shape my dot legs, I suppose. And next, I went ahead and just cut off all the excess from my pattern and reveal my final bodice pattern. And I make sure the side seams are matching the front side seam with the back side seam, that they are the same length. I like to do that just to make sure everything is correct. So I have here my official pattern piece so I can demonstrate to you what it was that I was trying to show you earlier. So I have my pattern here with the correct marks that I intended to place my center front mark, which is the 13-inch. And so when I place the ruler at a 90-degree angle from that mark, this is what things look like. My line would not touch my side seam length. So that is why I just bring the ruler down to until it touches the side seam. And that's why I mark my straight line leading to the excess. So here, this is what it would be like if you did a straight line, not a 90-degree angle line, straight from the center front to the side seam. That means when you cut out your bodice, you would end up with a V shape going on. And so this is what it looks like when I do it correctly. And next, I am going to put things together.